What's up, everyone? This is Fuego Steve, bringing you another NBA podcast. Today is November 4th, 2017, and we have a very small slate with only 4 games on the main slate. You could play the 3:30, but we're just going to talk about the 4 main games today. Once again, I am joined by Jaguar Lou. What's going on, Lou?
Hey, Fuego. How are you?
All right. Yeah, we had some good plays yesterday, and I had LeBron in the lineup, but I also had TJ Warren who got hurt, and you obviously needed LeBron because he went off. He had 90-some FanDuel points, which is pretty wild, and obviously that propelled a lot of the higher scores, and you needed like 3 Lakers too, so we had talked about putting 3 Lakers. People asked me in chat about 3 or 4 Lakers, and I said you could do it. And that's how a lot of winning lineups had 3 Lakers in there. So a lot of them went Randall and Kuzma, actually. They went Randall and Kuzma at power forward, and then Lopez at center, and then had LeBron, obviously, and some other players. But tonight we got 4 games. All of them, the lowest spread is 6. The favored by 6 over the Chicago Bulls. Then you got 9-point spread, 9.5-point spread, 12.5-point spread. So, hey, you're just going to have to go with it. I suggest going with the higher over-unders, where there's 2 really high at 228, the Golden State-Denver game, and the 214, the Dallas-Minnesota game, and then 2 pretty low at the 199 and 194. But in those games, you have the players like Drew Holiday and DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis. So let's jump into the point guard. You got Steph Curry, 9,200. I'm going to try to get him in my lineups and then pair him with someone else. Drew Holiday, Jeff Teague, Reggie Jackson. You could go 2 of these guys and not Curry if you chose. But I'm probably going to pair Curry with one of these other lower guys, maybe De'Aaron Fox, 5,600, or J.J. Barea at 4,000, who the optimizer likes. Talk to me a little about point guard today, Lou.
Well, first of all, I agree. I think you got to fit Steph Curry in your lineups, not just because there's a big margin, like I always say, between the first and second sometimes, and you have to lock them in, but he actually has a good matchup as well. His floor has been very reasonable, and his ceiling's been pretty high. So I don't really see a downside in fitting a reasonably salaried or reasonably priced Steph Curry at his floor for the month. Let me see. The lowest I see here is 35, and that was a while back. I see a ceiling of 54. And in the past 9 games, a floor of 42. So at a salary of 9,200, I see no problem just locking that in to any optimizer, any lineup you're doing. Considering your value, or there is value at point guard, but there's not much certainty. I mean, Drew Holiday, I guess, becomes your next best play. The DVPs are good against Chicago for point guards. They allow 52.8 points per game, ranked second worst in the league on this. Let me see. Let me just make sure this is right. Yeah, so they actually allow 52.8 points per game to opposing point guards for the season over their last 5 and over their last 10. I don't know if that's a statistical anomaly, but that's what it says. So, I have no problem going contrarian, which, you wouldn't think is contrarian. You would think most people would want to get points where they can, but I actually like pairing Steph Curry and Drew Holiday and avoiding some of these lower guys. Although I do like 1 or 2 of these lower guys, I think a lot of people are going to go down to Jamal Murray and Jerry Grant and J.J. Barea, and I'll tell you that I do like the Dallas point guard situation, whether it's J.J. Barea or Dennis Smith Jr. I'm fine going down to Dennis Smith Jr., but I will just say that there is merit right now to playing Drew Holiday. I think he had this. This would be more of a cash game play, but he gets the minutes. His game logs are pretty consistent, despite a game against Minnesota actually with 27 points. So, I am going to tell you that my favorite play on the day is whatever point guard can take advantage of the DVP situation against point guards that Minnesota displays, whether that's Dennis Smith Jr. or Barea. That's my favorite play of the day. But I do think it's important that you pair them with Steph Curry in, I would say, 90% of leagues. Like he's that sure of a thing, especially against a Denver team that doesn't guard the guard position too well.
Yep, it's great calls. I think that's the way to do it. You can pair Curry with any of these guys. De'Aaron Fox for 5,600 could go there. I'm looking at that JJ Barea staring me at 4,000. I might have to do it there because it really allows you to get in some of the other studs on this slate. Jamal Murray 5,400 on Denver. He's been up and down. Last night he had 4. Was that yesterday? Yeah, and the day before, 28, 27, 39, then 8. So Jamal Murray's risky GPP play, but you could do it. Jerian Grant at 4,600 for Chicago, 21, 22, 13, 30, 35. So he's got some upside, and he's only 4,600. So I could definitely see pairing one of these guys with Curry. So, and then we would go over to the shooting guard, and I'm thinking, so if I'm going Curry and say Barea, for example, I'm probably going to go with some of these mid-range point guards to even down to Buddy Hield at 4,000. What's his name's out? Maybe give him a little more usage. Who's the point guard there? George Hill's out, so maybe he'll get a little bit more usage. Etuan Moore, 4,400. You got Will Barton, one of my guys, 5,200. So these are some guys that I'm going to pay for, but if you did want to pay up, I could see going Klay Thompson at 69. Even if it's a blowout, he usually tends to play more. Andrew Wiggins at 65. But, there's no one over 7,000, so it's a place that we can mix and match. What do you think about shooting guard today, Lou?
Yeah, once again, I think you lock in Klay Thompson. I wrote a couple cash game write-ups per position, and I looked at the winning lineup in the 4-4-4 clutch for 100K, and long and behold, all 4 of my guys were in the winning lineup, and the 5th guy wasn't in the winning lineup only because it was Kevin Durant, and maybe he was in other lineups below. But I'm not going to toot my horn for calling the best 5 players on a 2-game slate, but there is something to be said on a slate like tonight and like those slates that you just have to grab the players that do. This is what I said about Klay Thompson when I wrote him up that night. He just is on the floor, and against a Denver team that can't guard the guard, I have no problem throwing in Curry and Klay Thompson. They have solid floors, and I don't trust Wiggins. I'm sure he'll be matched up against Wesley Matthews, which I don't love. Gary Harris will be guarded by Klay Thompson. So if you don't like the Klay Thompson play, by all means go to Gary Harris. If you do like the Klay Thompson play, you could do Klay Thompson, assume he gets Gary Harris into foul trouble, and then go Will Barton. That is a game scenario that is very plausible. That might be what I'm doing, because below Gary Harris and Wiggins,
they need to go back. Sorry to interrupt, but they need to go back to putting Gary Harris and Will Barton the same exact price. But go ahead.
No, I agree, but Will Barton,
Harris is the starter.
Yeah, I don't know why Harris is the starter, but Will Barton's usage is way higher.
Yep.
So in a game that I assume that they're chasing Golden State the whole time, despite them being home, I think Will Barton would be the play tonight. I'm fine. These price, usually you see them close to each other, but tonight it's a $1,700 difference, which is kind of out of control. Considering the guy above Will Barton is Chris Dunn. I don't even know what is going on here, man. The FanDuel's got to get their pricing together. Chris Dunn had 2 good games after returning from what I'm guessing was an injury. Let me see.
Yeah, and I
But
mean,
and he's priced higher than Will Barton, a guy that plays the six and gets 25, 27, 23. Yeah, like Will Barton's definitely a talented player. I could see him being necessary off the bench in big minutes to keep up with the Golden State team. I have no problem with Will Barton. I don't think I would go Gary Harris against Klay Thompson. But
would you go back to Etuan Moore at 44?
that Etuan Moore pick of mine was very contingent on a DVP play that I picked the other night.
What about Buddy Hield at 4?
Let me see. Hold on.
Going against Detroit.
No, definitely. See, Buddy Yield is so tough. Honestly, I think at these positions, look, we're going to talk about value elsewhere at other positions tonight, but where you can find raw points, and when I say raw points, I mean 30 points plus, and you could be confident about it. I think you grab it while you can. And there's a couple cheap plays at point guards where that's true, where we talked about J.J. Barea and the Dallas situation, or, it being the other guy, Dennis Smith. But the ability to grab 30 points tonight is a bigger benefit than you think it is. So
then putting you on the spot, who would you pair up with Klay Thompson there?
Right now I'm doing Will Barton for the sole reason that he's $1,700 less than the starter, and I guess that's because
500 less.
No, he's 1,700 less.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm looking at Klay Thompson stuff. So
Still
I apologize.
Less.
He's 500 less, and it can come in handy. And honestly, Gary Harris is a great player. I'm sorry about that. I was looking up at the other guy I had. I thought I had Will Barton and Harrison. Yeah. So he's significantly less. $500 is still significant money on a slate like this. And I have a good small forward play that I like a lot. I'm going to talk to you guys about it soon. But constructing a lineup tonight is not going to be the simplest thing. And when you find a value play that you're confident in, I say you go for it. And Will Barton's the kind of play that I'm not necessarily confident in the matchup that he's going to see, but I am confident that Denver knows they need his scoring abilities in order to keep up with the Golden State team. So at the very least, I think he'll get the opportunity early to keep Denver in this game. My biggest worry is that they get blown out, and then he gets a lot of run in the first half, and then maybe gets some garbage minutes, but that blowout potential really worries me.
Yeah, and that's what that's the problem when we move over to small forward. We're talking about Kevin Durant. He's 10,000, 1,700 more than Butler. 4,000 more than the third highest in Harrison Barnes, and then we drop all the way under 5,000. So small forward is where you're going to probably get some guys you automatically, unless you're paying up for Butler and Durant or Barnes and Durant or Barnes and Butler, you almost have to take a value guy. Daniel Nwaba, who we'll talk about in a second, who I like at 46. Wilson Chandler, 45. Stanley Johnson out of mine at 45. I might like him a little bit better than Chandler. It's close. Let's see what the optimizer says for small forward. It's got Chandler at 23 and Stanley Johnson at 22. So they are close. So do you have to get Durant in, even with the blowout potential there at small forward?
No. I think that with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry being locked into my lineups, I think there are other plays at small forward. When I spoke to you about value before, I think some of this value pops up at the small forward and power forward position. So I was looking at the DPPs I was looking at the worst DVPs, and the Minnesota Timberwolves have allowed 8 points higher than their season average over their last 5 games against opposing power forwards. So who benefits from that? Tonight against the Dallas Mavericks. And by the way, that's just like I said, Taj Gibson. Taj Gibson's a horrible defender. It's not a coincidence. Taj Gibson starting, I think the other night, Carmelo Anthony took advantage of him. He's just not a good defender, and I say that over and over again. So I think tonight Harrison Barnes takes advantage of him. It's going to be tough because Karl Anthony Towns is on the other side, and I hope Dirk or whoever is guarding Karl Anthony Towns can hold him down. But if Barnes is matched up against Taj Gibson, that's going to be a shit show. Excuse my
Yeah.
language, but yeah, Harrison Barnes. Taj Gibson will be no match for Harrison Barnes. And on a lineup where maybe you can get a little correlation action between the point guard situation that we said we like. Right now it has Dennis Smith starting, just so you know. But whoever has that starting matchup against Jeff Teague, I don't care what you do. I think Barea could hit value, but I think the starting spot really benefits from it the most. Like I said, Minnesota has the second worst DVPs against opposing point guards. So that could be a correlation there that I like a lot, which is Harrison Barnes paired with the point guard situation at Dallas. Once again, you're not going to find out if you're doing a 7 o'clock main slate. Maybe you will. The game's at 8.
It's probably going to start that. I still like Barea. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Well, I think they're both in good spots, and I just want to see where the favorable DVPs against Minnesota, like why they are. Is it because of Jeff Teague, or is it because of the guy coming off the bench, which is who is it? It's Aaron Brooks. No, it's Tyus Jones.
Tyus Jones, yeah.
So, maybe I'll watch a little game footage today, and if you guys want to ask me how that went, I'll let you know. But these are the ways that you find out, like, where these DVPs are coming from. Like, there's a reason why Minnesota allows so many points to opposing point guards, and it's not, 4 games in the season anymore. It's 10 or 12. So it's like it's a larger sample size, and now that these stats are rounding out, they actually mean something, and you can find indication based off patterns that you see in these DVP stats. And that's why, like I said, that's why I like Barnes, because of the power forward DVPs that the Timberwolves have allowed over the last 5 compared to their season. So Barnes is actually going to be locked in for me today.
I like it. And one guy I want to talk about who he's actually on DraftKings, he's point guard and shooting guard eligible. But on FanDuel, he's small forward. So he's got 3 positions covered between the 2 sites. And that's Daniel Nwaba. And David Nwaba. He's a great price on DraftKings at $3,900. You might have to lock him in at shooting guard on DraftKings, to be honest with you. Play Curry and Nwaba, and then you could even put Thompson at your other one if you feel like it. But so he's been playing well. He's put up he's 4,600, so his price is still pretty down there. 32, 27, 12, and 27. So 3 of the last 4, he's gone for 27 to 32 points at near. I mean, he was 3,000 the other day at minimum when he went for 27. His price did creep up, but even 32 at 4,100 yesterday, 6x. So you're talking again, if he can go for 24 to 28 points, you're going to be pretty happy at 4.6. But he's also around the same price as Wilson Chandler and Stanley Johnson, who I mentioned. And then you can even drop down to Andre Iguodala. Those are these 4. I'm not a doubt I'm going to go down to Valentine or Zipser or Dante Cunningham today. There's one more guy at 3,000 who seems like he's going to be popular, is Tony Allen for the New Orleans Pelicans. I don't love it, but I see it. He's got 18 minutes and 16 minutes. Those are not the kind of minutes you want, but he's put up 11, 13, and 22 FanDuel points. So if you're trying to punt, I could see it, and it allows you to get like Cousins in or something like that. Talk to me about Nwaba or any of these other lower-end guys.
Yeah, I actually love Nwaba. Nwaba is facing a New Orleans Pelicans defense that allows the 4th, I was going to say 3rd, they're jumping back and forth. And also you got to take into account that sometimes I look at these season DVPs, but the last 5 and the last 10 mean a lot to me too. But their 4th the 4th worst in the league, allowing 49.5 points on average for the season to opposing small forwards. So in terms of value, and considering what Nwaba did last night, I do think he's a great play at 4,600, especially if you're fading Kevin Durant. If you believe in what we say and you like the Klay Thompson, Steph Curry duo, I think playing Durant would be a little bit excessive, especially since me personally, I like Harrison Barnes, and I do like David Nwaba. So at 4,600, that opens up a lot of options for the rest of your lineup. Right now, I even have Drew Holiday in with a lineup that I love with Will Barton and Nwaba, and we'll talk about Paul Millsap when we get to power forwards. But you want to make sure you allot yourself enough money, not just for your first lineup, but if you want to do 10 lineups, you want to have some flexibility. So David Nwaba finds himself in a great spot tonight against New Orleans. And just to show you how bad that New Orleans team is too, the Harrison Barnes play that I'm talking about, his last game was against New Orleans. And he's a small forward as well. Today I'm considering his advantages in the power forward position because I do think he's going to be matched up against Taj Gibson, not Andrew Wiggins. Wesley Matthews matches up a little bit better against Wiggins in that scenario, body type wise. But what was I just saying? So I do think that Nwaba is a good lock in there. That's what I was saying. So Harrison Barnes, the last game, he got 42 points against that New Orleans team. So that was a big indicator that the Pelicans might have trouble right now guarding the small forward position, considering Nwaba's price. And if you do decide to fade Durant and play Thompson and Curry, all of that adds up to a safe play with Nwaba. And I'm pairing him with Barnes. You're welcome to do whatever you like, obviously. But you have a choice of Stanley Johnson, Andre Iguodala. Those guys have a little bit of a higher floor to me, but a lower ceiling. To me, Nwaba could hit a 40-point mark in a close game, especially if, in some way or another, you're having exposure to the New Orleans side of the ball between Anthony Davis or DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah, the more I look, the more I kind of like that Durant fade. It allows me to get Cousins in my lineup, and you can go with Nwaba and Barnes. You can go Nwaba and freaking Stanley Johnson. You only pay $9,000, so you can pay less at the two spots than you can for Durant, and maybe upgrade elsewhere. I'm kind of liking that. Barnes is that's a great call on Barnes. He's been playing well too. He's 6,100, put up 42 points versus the Pelicans last night, 25 the day before. So, and before he had a 13 before that, 30, 35. So he's pretty consistent. Barnes is one of those guys who usually doesn't get the 42, but he usually doesn't get the 13 either. So he's usually in that 26 to 28 range. But it's a night that he could get that 30, which is 5x, or 36, which would be 6x versus Minnesota, so that's a great call there. And Golden State, Chandler, small forward versus Wilson Chandler going against Iguodala. It doesn't scare me. So I like that. And I don't think I'm going to go down to Tony Allen as much as some of the times the optimizer do something and puts him in there. If I was doing a bunch of lineups, maybe, but I think I'm doing the 44 tonight, so I'm only going to do like maybe 3 to 5 lineups or something. So moving over to power forward, Anthony Davis. Who is texting me? I'm getting blown up here. Anthony Davis, 11-8. Draymond Green, 7-6. Paul Millsap, the guy you were going to talk about, at 7-2. And Markkanen, I can never play Markkanen, and I've seen him in lineups, but the way Nwaba's playing, his prices always seems too high for me. He does put up some good games, but I don't think I'm going there. He's been consistently he has no less than 26 points this season. That's pretty damn good floor, but he's only got a high of 42, and that's once. So he usually gets 26 to 29 points. At 7,000, it's just too much for me. So talking about some of these high end, are you going to play Anthony Davis, Draymond Green, or are you just going to skip right down to Paul Millsap?
Well, my power forward play is predicated on what I think about Anthony Davis. And it's not what I think about Anthony Davis necessarily, but it's what I think about DeMarcus Cousins. And I think you have to have him in your lineup. I know you don't like me skipping forward, but this is important to mention before you roster your power forward. The Chicago Bulls allowed the second most points in the league to opposing centers. That's what DeMarcus Cousins is, a center on this team. Rarely do they have Davis really running that center position. It's really, in my mind, it's my mind, Davis remained the power forward. So with that said, so the Bulls are the worst team in the league, or the second worst team in the league against centers. The Sacramento Kings come third, but I do want. Let me just see really quick.
Just to add to that, I think you lock Cousins in. To be honest, we'll talk about center in a second. But I think
this is just what I'm saying. I think you lock Cousins in too, but considering the Sacramento Kings are the third worst team in the league against the center, if you don't want to lock in Cousins, there's a choice. I think this is a very blatant choice. You either go Cousins at center and you figure out something else at power forward, or you go Anthony Davis at power forward and you put Andre Drummond at center. Drummond becomes a safe play against a Sacramento team that can't guard the center position. His last 5 games are 51, 33, 48, 48, 43, 46 was his 6th game, or his 7th game. He's just a safer play in terms of cash, but DeMarcus Cousins does have the most favorable matchup on the slate. So if you're locking him in, then considering power forward position now, you're not locking Anthony Davis in. That's just how I usually do things. So you have to go lower. I guess I have no problem with Markkanen. I kept saying, I said it the other day, he had that 29 points in the first half of that game one time, and then he literally didn't have another point for the rest of the game. So I don't know if he's somebody worth looking at. Paul Millsap was my most viable play cash game wise. If you look at his game logs, it's been increasing over his last 5, 32, 34, 35, 50. Like, he's getting his like feel with his new team. And I think that's important, especially for a Paul Millsap player that was on Atlanta for so long. And he has a favorable matchup tonight. You might say, Draymond Green, how is that a favorable matchup? But Draymond Green actually allowed bad DVPs to the power forward position last season. He just has a lot to worry about defensively on the court. And a guy like Paul Millsap that could take that mid-range shot could definitely take advantage of a Draymond Green that's more physical underneath the basket. So I have no problem paying up for Paul Millsap, but you are paying up for him. And just because of his last 5 games, like I said, someone's going to have to keep Denver in this game. I'm banking on it being Will Barton and Paul Millsap. And once they find these matchups, they'll exploit it, very much so. The problem with this is my lineup right now that I have, which I'll even tell you guys because I'm not running a FanDuel lineup tonight. Just to get into the vibe for my my qualifier tomorrow. I think it's only fitting to stay on DK for tonight. But I'm looking at a Steph Curry, Dennis Smith, or Barea with a Klay Thompson, Will Barton, Harrison Barnes, Nwaba, Paul Millsap, DeMarcus Cousins, and
Randolph.
Yeah, well, with the DeMarcus Cousins, it makes it difficult to roster another power forward, considering I have $3,200.
That's the lineup I have with Zach Randolph at power forward right now.
Are you plugged in Barea, right? Not.
Yeah, that's with Barea. And if you go Smith, you're gonna have to drop from somebody, whether it's
if you drop from
Thompson.
Yeah, if you go Smith, you have to drop. But if you believe in Barea, you can go to Taj Labarezi or Randolph. In that situation, I think Randolph is the safest play, assuming his ankle's better. So, the fact that me and you are plugging in these same lineups, I love it. You save $200 salary, which doesn't, some people get upset when you see $700 or more salary sitting there. I think me and you formed a nice little lineup. I don't have to repeat it just in case you want to run this out. But I'm running. I'm gonna.
That's right. They can rewind if they want to hear it. If you're entering contests, be prepared to tie.
Yeah. This is a great lineup I think we put together here. Just the JJ Barea thing scares me a little bit. I think that they'll go with
Yeah, me too. I'm
those.
gonna have to
I mean,
think about that.
I mean, if you can find a minimum price power forward to switch up Barea with Dennis Smith, if you put Smith in there, it leaves you
Eric
with
Moreland on Detroit. Ugh.
and it leaves you with 3,200 for your power forward. So your option to become Anthony Tolliver. And I guess in this scenario, you're just hoping that Dennis Smith goes for the 45 and they don't even worry about Barea and Barea becomes a secondary player.
What
In
happened to
this
Kenneth
scenario,
Farid? But what happened to him? He used to be good.
who?
Yeah, on Denver.
Oh, oh no, Farid.
Free. Sorry.
I don't know. You're right. That's funny.
He's getting
I think he was
5 minutes, 11 minutes, 3 minutes. Like the game he put out, he had 22 minutes. The second game of the season, put up 37 points.
Yeah, that's weird. Maybe I don't know. It says he was one of the primary beneficiaries of the Kings' defense, focusing on Nikolai Djokovic as a slick. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't say anything solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you want to take a chance, I mean, Darrell Arthur used to be the guy to go to if if the power forward position got
Right.
hurt, but
Right.
I don't know if that's still true with Paul Millsap. So I think sticking with Barea and being a little bit safer and going up to the Sacramento power forward position is a little safer.
I would say
Um,
that if you wanted to get off Barnes, now I know you like Barnes, but if people listening want to get off Barnes and go to Waba and Wilson Chandler, Waba Stanley Johnson, then you could go up
well, also
Smith at point guard.
Also, I told you Andre Drummond has a great matchup. So if you want to get off Cousins and you don't think he's going to have the massive game, you can go down to Drummond. You could save $2,600, and then you can fill out your lineup in a little bit more of a cash game way. But I do think Drummond's a fine play tonight. In that scenario, maybe take out Barea. You could put in Dennis Smith, which is the guy I liked. You would leave Paul Millsap in there because I think he's a safe play. If you do plug in Dennis Smith or Drew Holiday, which I mentioned is in a good matchup as well, especially if you're not starting Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins, it would help having Drew Holiday just in case he starts going off. There always has to be a reason as to why Anthony Davis or DeMarcus Cousins wouldn't do well, and Drew Holiday could be that reason. So you could go up to Dennis Smith, you can go up to Drew Holiday, and you have more than enough money if you drop down to Drummond to do whatever you want. I'm in a lineup right now where I'm left with 5,800. I have Dennis Smith up there. I honestly would go up to Drew Holiday at 72, leaving me 42 for my remaining power forward, and all those original players maintained in my lineup, which is Paul Millsap, Nwaba, Barnes, Barton, Thompson, Holiday, and Curry, and then Drummond. I just had to drop down from Cousins to Drummond. And the thing is
Right.
like you're dropping down, and I mean, yeah, Cousins could get 60 points, but I think Drummond's a lock for 40. I think.
No, I agree. I agree. Any worry on the back-to-back?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, not much though. I mean, well, let's move right into center. We've already started talking about I really like Cousins, but you're convincing me more and more on Drummond. You can save almost $3,000, and you're still paying up for it. Like you could
Well, the thing is, I love Cousins. I'm not taking anyone off Cousins. If you can afford it, go for it.
Right.
But
no, I hear you.
Yeah.
I mean, his game logs are just ridiculous. No less than 42 points. We're talking about Drummond getting 42. Cousins has no less than 42 with 73, 66, 79, 63, 65, 60. So the ceiling, I've just been watching a lot of him and Davis play recently. And you're totally right. Cousins is clearly the center. There's no question about it.
He has the DVPs. Like, remember that. He's going up against a great matchup in Robin Lopez. Like, I'm not saying he's not. He's definitely doing well tonight. The question is he worth the extra 20 whatever $100? I think it's 27.
He's also coming off a back-to-back too. So
and he's coming off a back-to-back. So maybe, you know what? Maybe the fade is go fill that second power forward slot that instead of Paul Millsap. Like we have Paul Millsap. We didn't know we were going to do it the second one. Maybe the fade is to throw in Davis there, and then you put in Drummond at the center position.
Yeah, and then you're gonna have to mess with the rest if you do that. If you go Millsap and Davis, unless you don't go Millsap and you leave it at Rand. No, you still could. You still have to drop from one of these other guys. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, Cousins, definitely in play. What? Talk to me a little about guys that we haven't really mentioned today. Is Karl Anthony Towns and the Joker, Nikola Jokic. I like them both, but I think I like Drummond and Cousins better. So I don't see me going to either of them. And Towns has been slumping a little going against Dallas in a slow pace game. No, actually, this game is the 214. They're supposed to score 113, so they are supposed to score some points against Dallas. But he's had a couple down, 13 points last game. That was just, man, he didn't score until the very end he was getting worked by Davis and Cousins. He really was. He had 2 points, 5 boards for a total of 13 FanDuel points last night. Gross. And then the Joker, who's been playing really well, 52, 51, 44, 48, 44 his last 5. Those are some sick games right there. But he's priced at that 95. So if you're not going to go Cousins, if you're not going to go Drummond, would you consider either of these guys, or would you drop down to like the Robin Lopez's or Willie Cauley-Steins?
The only one I would consider is Nikolai Jokic, just because, and this would have me off Will Barton, or maybe still on Will Barton, but for a while, I don't know how long you guys have been listening to the podcast, but I was targeting Zaza Pachulia as a bad center against, allowing a lot of points against opposing centers. And it was working a lot. I haven't done it in a while just because the DVP's rounded out and he's more the middle of the pack now. But that rounding out could also be because of their backup center performing a little bit better than maybe he was in the past. So you never know how those DVPs round out. But Nikolai Jokic has been getting a little bit. He's on the uptick over his last 2. He's hit that 50-point burger, or could I say 50 burger there?
Sure.
All right, 50 burger. All right. I never know. I'm new to this broadcasting thing, and I remember listening to it, and people would always say burger. And then the other day, I shout out the word 30 burger, and I was like, I fucked up.
30 burgers. That's more like that's a slider, 30 slider.
Yeah, that's like going to In-N-Out and getting like $5 worth of fantasy goodness. No, but yeah, he has hit 52 and 51 in his past 2. And even before that, 3 before that, he's hit 44, 48, 44. So assuming he's lower owned than maybe these DeMarcus Cousins, Nikolai Jokic is even a significant savings off Cousins. And he's had a significant floor and ceiling over the past 5 games. I have no problem dropping down to Jokic. I swear, with some of these guys, it's like continuously doing a tongue twister. But Karl Anthony Towns, I wouldn't go to. That's a little bit of a more slow-paced game. Drummond, I told you I like. I actually have no problem with Robin Lopez as well. I mean, if you really have to go down that low, and that's a drop there. It goes from Drummond at 94 to Lopez at 61. So that is a drop to a next tier level. But, between Willie Cauley-Stein and Robin Lopez, these are 2 viable starters that could go off, and they're both much more reasonably priced at $6,100 for Lopez and $4,700 for Willie Cauley-Stein.
Right. And that's we've talked about it before on the podcast. It's what you have to sacrifice. Now, I don't think you need to today because of the because you have 4 guys on a 4-game slate. You have half of them at over 9,000, which means what? It means the center position is strong today. When we were talking about small forward, let's go back to shooting guard. We had no one over 7,000. So it's like, do you need the savings of the Willie Cauley-Stein and Robin Lopez? I mean, I could see Lopez, but you're going to have to hope he hits that 40. And he hasn't done it yet this year. Maybe it's his ceiling. He has it 34, 35, 33. But you would, with Cousins on the slate, with Towns, Joker, Drummond on the slate, you're really going to have to help Lopez, and Willie Cauley-Stein, almost would need his, biggest game of the year because he's, he's been struggling. So on a larger slate, if you're trying to get a lot more of your studs in, or I mean, maybe you disagree with us and you want to play Durant, you want to play Curry, you want to play Jimmy Butler, you want to play Anthony Davis. So if you're trying to play all those guys, then you would have to drop down here and maybe take a chance on one of these guys. I would probably not drop lower than Cauley-Stein, though. Mason Plumlee's interesting. If it's a blowout, he's going to get the run instead of the Joker at 4,000 versus Golden State. So if you really wanted to do a punt play there, I could see it. Any other final comments for today's slate, Lou?
If you're playing the 3:30 slate, I don't know if there is one.
Yeah,
is there like little three? All right. So I guess Mario Chalmers, just to do a couple notes. Mario Chalmers is in play, assuming his price stays low. I haven't looked at, what is it, an early slate, or is it just like a turbo slate?
No, it's like an all day.
Okay, so I don't know what his salary is. I can look it up in a second.
Will play.
Yeah, so with Gasol playing, I think that kind of becomes a lock. If you're going to play an all-day slate, he becomes a center that you can consider just as viable as I would really compare. Well, I know DeAndre Jordan's not a bad defender, but with Marc Gasol being the only option on that team in terms of professional all-star basketball player, I would consider Marc Gasol comparable to Jokic in the sense that he has a 50-point realistic game in front of him with a little bit of upside and not much downside. So if Gasol's playing and healthy, I think you can go there. I have no problem going to Mario Chalmers if he's very cheap. Like I said, I haven't looked. So if he's below, what were people paying for Chalmers? I actually did it the other night, and it kind of worked out. I think he got 29 points. And you were on him too, I remember. So Chalmers is a guy that could get you 30 points. Just make sure he's at the right price on FanDuel and DraftKings. And on the other side, it's a slower paced game. So other than Blake Griffin, I think I would stay away from that team. Maybe Patrick Beverley against Mario Chalmers if you really wanted to, but on a small 5-game slate, if you're doing that. Even on a small 5-game slate, if you're doing that 3:30 game, there's still other ways to go. I don't think you need to get impulsive and go to this game, which I'm assuming is the lowest over-under on the slate. Am I wrong about that? I mean, it looks like it would be, unless
no, it's the Sacramento-Detroit game.
Okay, well, I'm sure
it's close. It's close.
Yeah,
It's
one of the least fantasy. Goodness games. So,
right, for sure.
Yeah, so don't get impulsive if you're playing the all-day slate. One of these plays I always like to play is play the all-day slate in big money and fade that first game because you get rid of all the degenerates that jump on that first game, kind of like Thursday, Thursday football. You get your lineup in, throw $1,000 lineup in, and then don't play anybody in that first game. There's a lot of people that literally can't resist playing people in a Thursday slate if they're playing the Thursday slate, especially if it's big dollar. So that's a strategy. I think I named it a couple months back. I called it taking advantage of the degenerates. So that's my it's my move. It's like the Bobby Fischer. It'll be in chess.
I think you're not the only one with that particular move there.
I'm labeling that move right now the Jaguar move. So if anybody has a problem,
you obviously don't listen to Roto Grinders, do you?
Oh boy, did they take it first?
We've been talking about that move for a while. But that's all right. You can brand it under your own name.
We'll share it, guys. Sorry about that. Don't sue me.
You can brand it under your own name, and we'll get a different name there. We'll call it the early slate fade.
We'll figure it out. Listen, Fuego, it was a great quick podcast. I love it on a 5-game slate. We snuck it in here on a Saturday. That was because of Fuego, guys. Just so you know, that was all on him. I wasn't planning on doing that for you guys.
Yeah, well, I'll try to give back, back to the people. So, good luck, everyone, tonight. I don't know if I'm going to be in chat or not. You can try me. And I'll see. I've got the kids tonight. But you can DM me on Twitter. At least I will get the perfect answer. And for Jaguar Lou, I'm Fuego Steve. Peace out. Good luck.
Good luck, guys.